Cars might be about to get a lot more expensive. Depreciation is accelerating, consumer debt is climbing, inventories are piling up, and new tariffs could push prices even higher. But the question is, are we seeing a bubble burst or just a bump in the road? In this video, we're going to break down exactly what's happening, analyze the key factors, and help you understand if we're truly witnessing the end of the car market boom, or if it's still safe to buy. And if you want to stay one step ahead of market trends and protect your money, make sure you hit subscribe right now because things are about to get interesting. Let's dive in. So, part one, let's talk about what's actually going on in the car market right now. Because while some people think prices are about to crash, the data says otherwise. And it's not just inflation, it's a mix of tariffs, debt, oversupply, and global risk all converging at once. Let's start with tariffs. In 2025, the US government under the Trump administration announced 25% to 50% tariffs on several imported goods, including cars and auto parts. These tariffs target a wide range of foreign suppliers, especially countries with trade surpluses or low-cost labor: China, Mexico, Korea, Japan, Germany. According to Goldman Sachs, the cost of some foreign-made cars is expected to rise between $5,000 and $15,000 per vehicle. And even cars assembled in the US will get hit because they rely on imported parts, chips from Taiwan, batteries from China, transmissions from Mexico, and so on. Bank of America estimates that a 25% tariff on all imported auto parts will raise the cost of US assembled vehicles by $26 billion, or around $32.85 per vehicle on average. As former Ford CEO Mark Fields put it, there is absolutely no vehicle that won't be impacted by tariffs. Now, some automakers might try to absorb part of that cost, but most will pass at least a portion to consumers in the form of higher prices, fewer incentives, and reduced availability of affordable models. Next problem: debt. Auto loan balances in the US hit record highs in 2025, according to the New York Fed. Delinquencies are quietly rising. Subprime borrowers, the ones with lower credit scores, are defaulting faster than expected. That's a red flag because when people can't afford their cars, they stop buying. Lenders get stricter, monthly payments climb, and more people get priced out, especially with average APRs now above 5% for new vehicles. Then comes inventory. After a few years of shortages, inventories are rising again, up 25% year over year, according to Cox Automotive. Dealerships are sitting on cars that aren't moving, which sounds like a recipe for discounts. But here's where things get complicated. You'd think rising inventory plus rising debt would drive prices down, but tariffs and supply chain issues are creating a cost floor. Some automakers are deliberately limiting production to protect margins. They'd rather sell fewer cars at higher prices than flood the market and offer discounts. So even though demand is soft, prices aren't dropping the way they should. That's why we're in a strange spot. On one side, inventories are rising, consumer debt is climbing, used car prices are finally correcting. But on the other, tariffs are driving costs up, production costs are surging, manufacturers are restricting supply. And just letting clear, this doesn't look like a bubble bursting, as many people on the internet are saying. It looks more like a dramatization, a market trying to rebalance but getting distorted by political moves and corporate strategy. So what happens next? I think car prices will continue rising over time, especially for purchases. Why? Because we're moving away from the idea of owning a car and towards subscribing to everything. You already subscribe to movies. You subscribe to work platforms. You subscribe to software. Now, your next car might just be a subscription too. And companies love that because subscriptions create predictable revenue. We're entering a world where fewer people own cars, and those who do pay a premium. That's the shift no one's talking about. And if you're not prepared, it's going to get expensive fast. Now, moving to the part two, who'd you buy a car right now or wait? So now comes the real question, not for the market, but for you. Should you buy a car right now or wait? Let's be real. Car buying used to be simple. You checked your budget, walked into a dealership, haggled a bit, and drove out with a vehicle. But the game changed. changed. Here's how to think about it. If you're buying used, this might be the best time in years to get a deal, but only if you're smart. Used car prices have dropped more than 10% from their peak, but that doesn't mean everything is cheap. What's getting cheaper? 3 to 7-year-old sedans, older compact SUVs, fleet vehicles returning from leases. What's still expensive? Trucks, electric vehicles, any model that was overhyped during the pandemic. So the trick is, don't overpay for the hype. If you need something basic and reliable, this market can finally work in your favor. Also, if you're broke or completely broke, but a car is a necessity for daily transportation, this might be the best option. I won't calculate it here because it will depend a lot on where you live, where you work, and where you usually go. But I would make a spreadsheet comparing the costs of using Uber and a rental car to see which is more cost-effective. Sometimes Uber is the best option. Now's where it gets complicated. If you're thinking about buying new, prices are sticky and may go higher, not just because of tariffs, but because of how automakers are thinking. They're not trying to sell more cars, they're trying to make more money per car. Less volume, more margin. That's the new game. So waiting for a price drop, that may never happen. Instead, you'll see more employee pricing promotions like Ford is running through June 2nd. Soft rebates and loyalty cash, shorter financing terms with higher monthly payments, and even then, the average new car price in 2025 is still hovering above $47,000, with financing costs pushing monthly payments near $750 for many buyers. This is the most underrated move right now. Buying an older car. This is the old school method. If you have little money, you have probably already bought an old car. Not financing, not leasing, just buying a 7 to 10-year-old car outright and walking away with no monthly payments. It's not glamorous, but makes sense. Here's why. You skip the interest. With loans above 5%, that's thousands saved. You avoid the depreciation cliff. The car has already lost most of its value. You keep control. Lose your job tomorrow? You don't owe a bank anything. You lower insurance and taxes. Older cars are cheaper to insure and register. Sure, you might have some repairs, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 up front, but you're not locked into a $700 month payment for 5 years. You buy the car, it moves, you win. And if you bought a $10,000 car and invested the other $35,000 you would have put in a down payment or financing, that could turn into $50K plus over time. Now, I'll add a bonus topic in this video. Let's talk about how much car you can actually afford, not based on what the bank says, but based on real life. Because most people make the mistake of starting with the car instead of starting with the math. Here's how I think about it. The first rule is simple. Your car shouldn't break your budget. So a good rule of thumb is this. Your monthly car cost, including everything, shouldn't go above 10% of your income. That includes the loan payment, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and all the little surprises that show up once you're already locked in. Let's say you make $5K per month. That means your total car expenses should stay under $500, not just the financing, everything. But if we're talking about financing only, the max safe monthly payment would be around $400. That gives you some room for gas, insurance, and maintenance. Now, if you're financing that car over 4 years, which is already a stretch, never go for those 6 or 7-year loans. That's $400, 48 months equals $19,200. That's the amount you're really financing. If you're putting 20% down, which is smart and protects you from being upside down, you'd be adding another $4,800 in cash. So the total car you're buying is $24,000. That's the maximum in this example. And honestly, that's still a lot for most people. I like something even simpler. If you're paying cash, the car shouldn't be worth more than half your annual income. So if you make $6,000 a year, the car shouldn't cost more than $3,000, and ideally much less. A used car for $10K, $15K that still runs well might give you way more peace of mind and cash flow than a new one with a giant loan. Because here's what nobody tells you. The car isn't just the sticker price. There's insurance, gas, maintenance, tire changes, that random $800 repair that shows up in year 3. It's not just about affording the monthly payment, it's about not letting a car own you financially. So if you want to do the math the right way, here's how. Take your monthly income, multiply it by 10%, and that's your full car budget per month, including everything. If your financing is eating most of that, you're not ready. And if you're putting it all on credit, you're definitely not ready. Do the math before the test drive, not after. Because once you're inside the car with that smell, with the dealer hyping you up, and monthly payments sounding manageable, you're not thinking with your calculator anymore. You're thinking with your emotions. And cars are not emotional decisions. They're financial ones. Well, that's it, cousin. Stay invested.